So let's look at last parts of this chapter. The first thing I'm going to talk about is cytokinesis. So remember, cytokinesis is a division of the cytoplasm. So first we're going to look at how it occurs in animals, and then we're going to look at how it occurs in plants. So with animals, a cleavage furrow forms on the cell surface. So a cleavage furrow is essentially a groove that we see in the cell surface, and essentially what happens is that groove deepens all the way through, and eventually it separates a cell into two cells. Now we're going to not really get into much of the particulars beyond that here. All right. Next is a plant cell, and what a plant cell has to do, because it has a cell wall, is it literally builds a cell wall in between those two developing cells. So here the Golgi apparatus produces vesicles that contain cell wall material, and those are going to migrate to the midpoint of the cell, and there that cell wall material is put together to form that new cell wall, and those vesicles being made of membrane form the new plasma membranes for those cells. And that's essentially how plant cells do it. All right. All right. Now let's move on to the cell cycle here. So the cell cycle is a repeating cycle of cell growth and cell division. All right. So this is looking at the entire cell cycle. So we're going to start this right after mitosis has occurred, right? So if we have one cell, it's going to divide into two cells. Once again, those two cells are smaller than the original cell was. So the first stage here is called the G1 phase. All right, so in that G1 phase, well, that's when most cell growth occurs. So you can see we have the smaller cell and it gets larger there. All right, so here the cell is going to increase in size and also in its number of organelles. All right, now most cells are going to stop somewhere in this stage, and we'll get to the reason why that is at the end of the cell cycle. The next phase is called the S phase, which stands for DNA synthesis. All right, so here in the S phase, that's when the DNA replicates. So this is our chromosome before, there's our chromosome after, right? So we have those sister chromatids then, all right? Next is the G2 phase, or gap phase, the second gap phase, all right? And this is when the cell is preparing for cell division. So here it's getting ready for the cell to divide. And so the next phase is the M phase, and the M phase is the entire cell division stage. So this includes mitosis as well as cytokinesis, all right? So that's what's going to happen here at the end of this. We have two cells that we're going to see. All right, and then we can start this all over again. All right. Now, if you see here in purple, you see all these stuff that says interphase here. All right. So all this in purple is interphase. So what interphase is, this is the period in the eukaryotic cell cycle when the cell is not actively dividing. So that's all this. So interphase is not one of the stages of mitosis. It's everything outside of that. All right. So that includes the G1, the S, and the G2 stages. Those are all part of interphase. All right? So going back to why some cells stop here is we think about most of the organs in our body are not continuing to grow. Like our spleen isn't getting any larger, or our liver isn't getting any larger. So most of our cells are going to stop here because if they continue on, we're essentially getting ready for mitosis to occur. There's no reason to double up your DNA unless you're going to divide. So most cells stop here. Now, some cells will stop at the end of the G2 phase if we want a quick repair process to occur. So your heart muscle cells stop right here because if you damage some of those, you want to repair those very quickly. So that's why they stop here, can go through mitosis very quick. Okay? So that's it of this chapter.